Subject 4, Scene 3, Take 1.
In the past, he's made a lot of promises. But when he got to D.C., that all changed.
He's given us government-run health care.
He's the largest recipient of lobbyist money.
Raised the debt ceiling to pay for bailouts.
You might be thinking Barack Obama.
Close.
He's one of Barack Obama's favorite senators.
John Tester.
The same John Tester who talks one way in Montana votes 95% of the time with Obama.
Tell John Tester to quit supporting Obama's interests and start supporting Montana.
This is a critical election for House Republicans. We have 31 offensive opportunities. We must capture these critical seats. New York to California, Georgia to Illinois. Men and women who will fight for conservative principles are stepping up, and they need our support. To preserve the gains in 2010, we must defend 47 competitive Republican seats across the nation. Of those, President Obama carried 27. 28 are held by freshmen, and 17 are in New York, Illinois, and California alone.
Kristi is a fighter for South Dakota.
A very honest person, very ethical.
She puts in long days, she works hard, she gets things done.
She doesn't live in the Washington circle.
Kristi comes home every weekend.
She can walk up to anybody and relate to them.
She's just a quality individual.
She doesn't go to Washington as a politician. She goes to Washington as a wife, a mother, a businesswoman, and a farmer.
She represents South Dakota because she is South Dakota.
I'm Kristi Noem, and I approve this message.
I'm Max Phillips. I'm running for Commissioner of Agriculture, and I've learned a lot traveling our state. I've learned that Mississippi farmers are the best in the world. I've learned that we can create new jobs by making renewable fuels from biomass and opening new markets. I've learned that we need a program to make safe, locally grown food available to our families. And I've learned that after a long day out campaigning with farmers and ranchers, you ought to remember to take your boots off when you get home.
Well, Max Phillips, you should have learned by now.
Uh-oh.
In Texas, we know how to take a stand. My parents taught me how my namesake took a stand for freedom at the Alamo. Judy and I taught our sons how to stand and salute the flag. When our way of life gets threatened by governments both here and abroad, taking a stand becomes critically important. For some, taking a stand means nothing. For my family and me, it means everything. I'm Travis Clardy, and I'm running for state representative. Help me take our values and our concerns to Austin, where together we can stand tall for East Texas.
I'm Melanie Sojourner. Growing up on this farm in Southwest Mississippi has taught me the value of hard work and community service. I'm running for state senate because our country has fallen on hard times, and the same old ways of doing business aren't working. Too many of our neighbors are unemployed and the economy is struggling. In Jackson, I will fight to create jobs and improve our schools so our children can raise their families here. Because Southwest Mississippi is a special place, together we can create jobs and leave it to the next generation even better than we found it.
The National Republican Congressional Committee is responsible for the content of this advertisement.
I'm a fourth-generation Montanan. My parents in the Navy instilled in me a deep love of our country and state, and those same values I want to pass down to our children. But America is hurting. Washington, D.C. is hopelessly broken, and it's up to states like Montana to lead us out of this mess. Out here, when we get knocked down, we pull ourselves up by the bootstraps and move forward. It's about learning a lesson, taking personal responsibility, and creating a better life for future generations. I'm Cory Stapleton, and I'll be that kind of governor.
Most Nevadans do our best to get by and follow the rules in this economy, but not Stephen Horsford. Horsford's history of defaulting on loans, not paying his bills, and skipping court shows that he's playing by his own set of rules. That's not all. Horsford's been called arrogantly imperial and slimy by the media for selling access to himself for campaign donations and for his poor behavior in Carson City. If Stephen Horsford can't follow the rules in Nevada, can we trust him to make the rules in Washington? The National Republican Congressional Committee is responsible for the content of this advertising.
Lobbyist Rick Hill sure has a lot of baggage. He tried to dump a huge sales tax on Montanans, got sweetheart real estate deals, and Rick Hill chaired an insurance board that supported Obamacare. And that's not the half of it.
We're sorry, Mr. Hill. You've got too much baggage. That just won't fly in Montana.
It's time for new blood and fresh ideas in Helena. We need a common-sense, conservative leader who'll do things for the right reasons. I'm Cory Stapleton, and I'll be that kind of governor.
Our economy is broken, and politicians like Tim Kaine made things worse. Under Tim Kaine, over 100,000 Virginians lost their jobs. Kaine borrowed and spent, leaving Virginia with a $3.6 billion deficit. And Tim Kaine pushed billions of dollars in new taxes on hard-working Virginia families. Kaine's reckless agenda won't fix our economy. Stop Tim Kaine before he makes things worse again.
When in the driver's seat, Stephen Horsford has been reckless with your money. A board Horsford sat on funneled taxpayer dollars to his company, and another mismanaged millions intended to fight poverty. In Carson City, he voted to increase your taxes by $781 million. Now Horsford wants to go to Washington to cut Medicare by $700 billion and raise your taxes again. We can't afford to play by Stephen Horsford's reckless rules anymore. The National Republican Congressional Committee is responsible for the content of this advertising.
My name is Wayne. I'm an unemployed coal miner. Both my grandfathers were coal miners. My father was a coal miner. In this area, it's just a way of life. I worked at a coal mine who in 26 years hadn't had a single layoff. In the past 4 years, we've been laid off twice.
It was really devastating to us because we had just had the baby and we've pretty well had to use our savings to live on.
My wife and I was born and raised in this area. I always wanted to raise a family in this area, but the reality is that may not be possible anymore with all the regulations that they've placed on coal. When President Obama said that he was going to bankrupt the coal industry, I really don't think that he understood what he was doing to our families and our communities. They think that the policies and the regulations that have been passed down by the EPA just directly affects the mining industry, but it doesn't. This whole area is built on the backbone of coal miners. President Obama just needs to stand with hardworking American families.
Americans for Prosperity is responsible for the content of this advertising.
Claire McCaskill said she was serious about cutting spending, but then she voted for the failed stimulus bill.
And the bailouts.
Claire McCaskill said we needed a balanced budget, but then she voted for Obamacare.
And billions in tax increases.
Claire McCaskill said one thing in Missouri, but then did another in D.C.
That's just not good enough for Missouri.
Call Claire McCaskill. Tell her to stop the irresponsible spending and protect Missouri taxpayers, like she said she would.
I'm Shane Goettle, and I approve this message because here in North Dakota, where I grew up, we're nice. North Dakota nice, they call it. We're community-oriented and quick to lend a helping hand to a neighbor when they need it. But we're also fiscally conservative and fiercely independent. But push us too hard and, well, we might surprise you. President Obama and his liberal friends in D.C. just don't get it. They think we're a flyover state. They think they can spend our country into financial ruin, and we won't notice. They think they can send their EPA out here to regulate our farm dust, and, well, we'll just be too nice to push back. And like a lot of North Dakotans, I've had just about enough. I'm Shane Goettle, conservative, family man, and North Dakota farm boy. I've worked in the private sector and for a government that has balanced its budget. Yes, a balanced budget. How about that? If you send me to Congress, I won't stop fighting those who would trample on our freedoms and expand the federal government, because it's no coincidence that our state is leading the way toward an economic recovery. And while we may be nice, if you threaten our way of life, you'll find out just what North Dakota tough is all about.